How do you support the people, ideas, and art that you admire? Do you want to agree with everything that they say, or is there something deeper at play for you? Last year, during a Haven phrase maze exploration around the prompt, "The money changed everything," we discussed what makes a gift a gift. We asked whether, once given, the giver of a true gift can have any justifiable feelings about what is done with it, or if a hope or expectation turns a gift into a conditional transaction. For example, when we give someone a present, we might expect them to use it in a particular way and maybe not sell it on or exchange it or give it to someone else, at least for an acceptable period of time. What impact does this obligation have on the receiver of that gift? How does this then relate to our engagement with artists, with public figures, with one another? Are we conditional patrons, offering support only when we agree with them? Or are we unconditional patrons, standing by them because we believe in their how and their why, even if we disagree with the substance of their what? This is on my mind because of a comment that I received on a recent YouTube video. Someone explained why they disagreed with something that I'd said, which is fair enough. But I was struck by the intended sucker punch at the end of the comment that they left. Unsubscribed. That word was like a weapon. It felt like an attempt at punishment and behaviour modification, focusing on the surface rather than the source. I know that subscribing isn't a gift. It's not the same as giving a gift. But I couldn't help but wonder if a similar mechanism exists in this distinction between conditional and unconditional gift giving. This is why I don't tend to ask people directly to subscribe to YouTube or my podcast or social media or whatever. I want that to be a choice, not a favour or a transaction. I leave it for people to come and go as they like, with no pressure on either of us. If the time comes for us to go separate ways, that's fine. It happens. We don't owe one another anything. Just had a nice ride along together for a bit. Do we tie our support for people to what they think or to how and why they reach the conclusions that they get to? Think about the creators, the artists, the figures that you follow and admire. Do you find yourself withdrawing support when they say or do something that you disagree with personally? What would it look like to support them unconditionally, focusing on their how and why rather than the particularity of the what? Over the years, I've come to support people whose way of thinking I respect and value. Most of the people that I follow express views that I disagree with occasionally, in some cases a lot, but I sincerely appreciate the how and the why behind their ideas. The process inspires me as much, if not more than, the outcomes that they reach. And it's only if their values, the drive of their why changes, that I would tend to consider whether or not I want to continue supporting them, which can happen. And there's a flip side to this coin. Subscribed. It can feel validating when someone agrees with something that I've said and tells me that they're subscribing or following me because of it. However, there's a subtle pull that can occur here. The connection between the statement that they agreed with and their choice to subscribe can create a conditional presence. And I might feel this pressure to keep them happy. I better keep saying similar things to the reason that brought them here in the first place. And this can lead to a slippery slope towards mediocrity, self-censorship, and audience capture. These are forces that we see in abundance today. When we engage like this with people, we can subtly encourage them to appeal to the crowd, to avoid risks, to conform to expectations, appeasing followers and provoking adversaries, rather than exploring new possibilities and navigating the nuanced space between the desire for a simplistic understanding and of life's complexities. This pattern also applies to our interpersonal relationships. We seek safety in our social bonds, and when we recognise that something pleases another person, we're more likely to reinforce, to continue that behaviour. Have you ever held back from expressing an opinion or taking a creative risk because you feared losing support or approval? How might unconditional support change that? Unconditional patronage isn't about unquestioningly supporting someone. It's about making our support broader than agreement and focusing on a person's character and approach rather than the particular conclusions that they may reach with any given topic or project or situation. What I admire in artists is how they dance with their creative spirit, allowing it to guide them to potentially unexpected and potentially unwelcome places. It might lead them to create works that I don't particularly enjoy or take directions that miss the mark for me. But that's great. If I trust how and why they're doing what they do, and I respect that stuff, I'm not overly invested and demanding about the outcome. I may very well actually come to appreciate what it is that they've created in time. After all, just because I don't get it now doesn't mean I'm not going to get it later. That's par for the course when engaging with artists or visionaries or prophets. Unconditional patronage involves creating conditions that allow individuals to be themselves, to grow from that space, rather than casting a shadow over them and instilling this presence of fear about the consequences of making mistakes or saying things that I don't agree with. Instead, it provides a secure foundation to explore, to create, to develop ideas. Do you follow anyone whose approach you admire, even if you don't agree with everything that they say? Or have you received unconditional patronage from someone else? What difference did it make to you? While unsubscribing or unfollowing, walking away, they're all valid options and things that are very important from time to time. Announcing it raises questions about our motivation. It's often a performative act. This puppetry is a way to assert control or signal disapproval, sometimes saying more about us than about the other person. Are we punishing them for not meeting our expectations or saying something that we think they should say, or reproducing the TV show, the album, the book that we've already had a love for, and we just want more of the same? How do you choose to do it when you need to step away? What do you value when it comes to leaving well? And how might your approach reflect the values that you carry? When people create or live out of fear of losing support or hoping to gain it, we risk stifling creativity. This dynamic doesn't just limit individuals, it dampens the rich pool of creative potential within us as a collective, as a species. This pressure often shows up in subtle ways. For example, imagine receiving praise or a gift or help from someone who makes it clear that they're supporting you because they liked something very particular, something very specific that you did. While their intention might be positive, it can leave you feeling indebted, pulling yourself away or questioning whether, can I really go down this path here because it's not like that one that they showed support for. And you might then sort of enter into this people-pleasing cycle. So can you think of a time when you felt pressured to reciprocate something that you didn't ask for, or when you felt obliged to meet somebody else's expectations rather than moving in the direction that you would have otherwise chosen? How did that make you feel, and how did it shape your choices?